Hi, I'm Jake, the Hilux Accessories Development Manager for Toyota Australia.
I'm Glenn Gore. I've been four-wheel driving Australia my entire life. And I'm here to find out exactly what goes into the making of Unbreakable. Hi Jake. So we get a lot of questions regards accessories, and I see there's been some major improvements over the range. So what accessories should I consider for my new Hilux?
Yeah, you're right, Glenn. There's a huge range for Hilux, and it really comes down to what you want to use the vehicle for. So if you're using it like you guys do in off-road or remote locations, you really got to look for a bull bar first. So the bull bar is primarily designed to give you protection from animal strike, but also give you a nice solid mount for your driving lights, CB antennas, communications. And then from there, you'd probably think about more heavy-duty type vehicle protection, so your side steps, your side rails, and then also probably your interior protection. So when you're getting in and out of the car a lot, we want to be able to protect the seats and the interior of the vehicle. So we've got interior seat covers and also all-weather floor mats that can help you do that. Makes it really easy to clean out as well. A lot of customers also want a winch. So when you're in remote areas, the winch is really great to get you out of a sticky situation when you're bogged with your mates or whatever. So I'm sure you've used those over the years as well. And this one, we've got the traditional steel cable and also the new synthetic rope, which is nice and easy to use, lightweight, really good product. So also storage. So for customers who buy Hilux, they really love it for the storage. That's why you buy the ute. To give them flexibility there, we've got a lot of products, canopies for nice secure storage, and also hard tonneau covers for maybe your smaller items, and the soft tonneaus, which give you really good flexibility to take things on and off. Towing, so I know you guys do a lot of towing as well. So to make the most of the new 3.5 tonne towing capacity, you really need a tow bar fitted. So that's another must-have, and you can put the roof racks on there as well if you really want to store stuff up on the roof, out of the way, give you more room for the kids and whatever in the back seat there.
So how are the accessories developed, and what are the differences between buying genuine versus non-genuine?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Glenn. So we've got a team of engineers working for Toyota in Australia, and we spend a long time developing the accessories, so up to 5 years before vehicle launch. And this is a huge difference between what happens in the aftermarket versus what we can do as Toyota as genuine. So we use that lead time to actually develop the parts together with the engineers in Japan. So the chassis, for example, has to be designed to take the weight of a bull bar or tow 3.5 tonne. So it's really important that we beef that up and we design the parts to work together as a system. So from our point of view, if we have a genuine bull bar, then it's going to be able to do exactly what the vehicle can do in terms of durability, safety and all that sort of stuff as well.
So in the terms of testing, what separates genuine from the non-genuine or the aftermarket?
Yeah, so that lead time allows us to do a heap of durability testing. So in Australia, we've got probably the worst conditions, road conditions in the world, or some of. Corrugations, you would have been amongst it out in the outback there. So to get through that actually puts a lot of stress and load through the chassis, and when you put a bull bar on the front, it makes those loads even worse. So we also use Toyota standards, which are actually a culmination of 80 years of Toyota knowledge in how to design and develop vehicles, and we can actually pump those tests into the accessories and make sure that they pass all the same standards that the vehicle passes in terms of durability and safety.
Do you have the ability to crash test a vehicle with the accessories and see how that integrates with the safety systems?
Yeah, airbag compliance is a huge one as well, and also ANCAP. So for us, we don't just rely on bench tests and this sort of stuff to confirm airbag compatibility. We've got to make sure that we design the crash structure to actually collapse at the right rate to make sure your airbags go off at exactly the right time. And we do that through simulation, but also through physically crashing a vehicle. Do
non-genuine have the ability to test like that?
They could, but it'd be a very expensive test to do. So it's something that Toyota, with the larger budget for accessory development and larger volumes, we've really got the capacity to do that sort of testing.
So more testing and more safety?
Correct.
So how should I choose the accessories for my new Hilux?
Yeah, there's so much to choose from, but I guess I'd probably say again, just to make sure you know exactly how you're going to be using the car before you choose the accessories, and also consider the mass of the accessories that you're installing. So every vehicle is going to have limitations in terms of the front and rear axle capacity and also the overall mass you can carry. So adding accessories eats into that payload. So just consider that when you're installing accessories as well. But you can talk to your Toyota dealership, go to the Toyota website, there's a heap of information to help choose those accessories.
A bull bar is obviously one of the first accessories that we would fit before we head off on an adventure, but tell us about the benefits of fitting a new bull bar to the Hilux.
Yeah, so the bull bar is primarily designed to protect your vehicle from animal strike. So you know that if you're out in a remote area and you do have the unfortunate event of having an animal strike, you are going to be able to drive your vehicle away. And so the other main benefit is actually being able to mount your driving lights and also your CB antennas, and it also gives you the option of fitting a winch to the vehicle as well.
So what bull bar options are available?
So for Hilux, we've got 3 bull bar options. So you've got the alloy bull bar that you see in front of us, which is made from a high tensile aluminium alloy. We've also got a premium steel bull bar and a commercial steel bull bar, which is a little bit of a lower cost option. All 3 bull bar options have winch applicability, and we've teamed up with Warn on this vehicle, so you've got a Warn synthetic and steel winch available that can be fitted to the winch compatible variants of all different bull bars.
How's this bull bar design unique from the previous bull bar design?
Yeah, so we've come a long way in the bull bar design for this vehicle. So you'll notice first thing how much more aggressive they look on the front of the vehicle. And we've achieved that through actually having really high approach angles in the corners and moving to a fabricated design. So 90% of the design work is actually behind the front face of the bull bar. So what you can see here is the triangulated wing brace structure. So this is designed specifically to give really good protection from offset impact. So having this triangulated wing brace section makes it really, really strong and makes sure that if you do hit a small animal on the corner, it's actually not going to curve in and bend in and damage your tyres. These orange sections here also have been painted for demonstration, but they're designed by Tech Centre in Japan. So chassis engineers and the body engineers actually help us with the design structure, and the engineers in Australia can work with them really closely to make sure that we design it together as a system to really be very durable, but also operate perfectly in the event of an airbag going off.
How much force can it withstand?
Yeah, so it's designed to be able to withstand the impact of a large kangaroo strike. So the testing we do is based around a large adult eastern grey kangaroo, around 74.5 kilos. And we do a high-speed impact to make sure that the deflection we have in that large impact won't actually connect with the vital components such as the radiator, headlights and also the tyres.
What other testing are the bull bars subject to?
So the main ones for us are durability and also safety. So when I say safety, I mean airbag performance. So we've got to make sure that the crush rate of the bull bar system is precisely the same as what the vehicle is without the bull bar fitted, to make sure the airbags go off at precisely the right time. So we also do a lot of functionality tests, so things like ground out, mud resistance, water fording, approach angle testing, so making sure that you're not going to contact the ground when you're driving on typical moguls and bush track type environment. So we've got to make sure that yes, it's designed to perform durably and also safely in terms of airbag compliance, but also it's got to be usable in that harsh off-road environment. For us, it's critical to keep the mass down, so we use lightweight materials like aluminium, and for the steel bull bars, we use a really high tensile steel, which is around 400 MPa, which is typically around 2 times what the aftermarket will use in their bull bars.
There's a lot of speculation about towing capacities on how they're both measured and tested. So what's Toyota's approach to how they determine a towing capacity?
Yeah, well, there's no single standard for setting towing capacities in Australia. And if you try to compare the figures from one manufacturer to another, it's an apples to oranges comparison. But what we do at Toyota is that we test and design to the Toyota standard, which is one of the most rigorous and stringent testing standards in the world. For example, in Australia, we conducted a 650,000 kilometre durability test here on our Aussie roads, and we had a fully laden vehicle towing its maximum capacity through some of the most gruelling roads and weather conditions you can think of.
So I see in the SR and the SR5 in the 4x4 turbo diesel manuals can tow an impressive 3.5 tonne, but why isn't that the case across the range?
Yeah, it's another good question. Well, at Toyota, we don't like to take a broad brush approach. Some competitors may give a single value for the entire range. We like to specify values that are accurate to each vehicle, and each vehicle is different. So between 4x4 and 4x2, you have different suspension systems. We offer different engines, different transmissions, and towing capacity is really a function of all of these parts. Even our entry-level grade 4x4 workmate has more than 3 tonne towing capacity. So towing capacity is a function of the chassis, the cooling performance, the engine, and the torque. And we wanted to give a number that is meaningful and accurate for our customers. What we've actually found is that customers are purchasing towing capacities above and beyond what they're actually using in the real world. And they're doing this because they're adding a safety margin. At Toyota, we've already done this for them. We know that when we say that the towing capacity is 3.5 tonne, it will do it with ease because we have tested it through the most rigorous conditions day in, day out.
So how's the Hilux tow bar different from competitors?
So the Hilux tow bar was actually designed in conjunction with the vehicle platform around 5 years ago. That means that it was meeting all of the attributes of the vehicle. And what we've found is that in the aftermarket and other competitors, the tow bars tend to impact on the departure angle. And for Hilux, one of the key attributes that the focus on was the off-road capability. So we've ensured in the design of the tow bar that the vehicle's off-road capability and chassis strength hasn't been compromised.
So on the safety side, we're starting to hear more and more about TSC. So what is TSC?
Yeah, well, TSC is trailer stability control, and it's an extension of our function of VSC, which is vehicle stability control. What it does is that it monitors the vehicle's rotation and the driver's steering input and proactively keeps the vehicle stable by braking individual wheels. And we've actually got this spec standard across the range.
So someone looking at buying a Hilux, they might tow a caravan or a boat or a trailer. So has there been developments with the tow bar to look at all different heights?
Yeah, it's a good question. So through the Toyota engineers' ingenuity, they've been able to design a tongue that is reversible. So for those wanting to tow a low trailer, they can set it into the low position. But those looking for extra clearance, it can be reversed and flipped around to set it to the high position.
Thanks for the info, mate. Pete, we've just towed over 6,000 kilometres with over 3 tonne behind the Hilux. And the Hilux has had the reputation of its toughness and durability, but the competition seems to be catching up. What makes Hilux so unique?
Everything about Hilux is made as tough as it can possibly be made. And that's what sets Hilux apart from the rest, but it's also what makes everybody else want to be Hilux. Hilux is really still ahead of the pack and the four-wheel drive ute that everybody else aspires to be. There's so much work goes into making it the way it is. Like, I'm often asked, where do you do your testing? Well, our test track is the world. But this Hilux, a great deal of the testing was done right here in Australia because not only do we have some of the harshest driving conditions on planet Earth, as you well know and you've tried to prove to us, we've got some of the toughest drivers that can dish out some really, really savage treatment to these vehicles, and they struggle to break them.
So Pete, what's been done to improve the off-road capabilities of the Hilux?
Most of that stuff you're never ever going to see. It's all underneath. The chassis is the most impressive Hilux chassis we've ever seen. It's been strengthened. It's made with a double box section that interconnects to make it even stiffer and more rigid than before. The springs have had their travel increased. Now, I'm sure you understand the need for maximum amount of wheel articulation, especially when you're off-road. And that's what the engineers have tried to build into Hilux's chassis. Wheel articulation, suspension travel, and the ability to do it with a load on board.
So how's the chassis been improved?
The chassis is very rigid, and the flex that's been built in to allow a bit of body movement and maintain comfort is in the huge mounts that attach the body to the chassis to absorb all of that vibration so you're comfortable inside, but underneath the chassis stays stiff and the suspension does all of the hard work to keep the wheels firmly planted on the ground where you know you need them to be in order to drive the thing forward through even the harshest terrain.
So if I'm driving through a freshwater crossing, how's the Hilux going to perform?
One of the first things I got to do when I drove Hilux off-road was a trip down the Werribee River. Better than the boat. It just cruised across the rocks, had no problems with water ingress, and in one side, out the other side, almost as if we were running down the highway. And Hilux's safe wading depth of 700 mil makes it the perfect thing for shallow water crossing.
To the interior of the Hilux, there's been such a dramatic change. How did you find the right balance of style, practicality and functionality of the new interior of the Hilux?
That was one of the biggest challenges for the engineering team because the interior is a workplace after all for most Hilux owners. But at the same time it needs to be comfortable because they're going to spend a lot of time there. So we looked at SUV interiors. The things that deliver a little more luxury than you'd normally find in a ute, a lot more comfort than you'd normally find in a ute, and integrated a lot of that stuff into the style. But then there was also the challenge of finding materials that were tough enough to deal with the day-to-day heavy-duty activity that goes on in there, but have that good feel for when you're not using Hilux as a workhorse.
What are the key features that make the interior so practical for someone that uses the vehicle as, say, an office on the road?
There are so many features in the Hilux interior that are both practical and convenient and deliver comfort, it's going to be really, really hard to list them all, but I'll give it a shot. The seats, they have to provide back support, lateral support for cornering. Off-roading, as you know, if the seat's not right, you're going to be in all kinds of trouble keeping control of the vehicle. So the seats have a lot of technology and design in them that makes them work. There are things like the touchscreen. Just makes it easy to control the entertainment system, navigation in the models that have it, steering wheel controls that make it easy to control all the things that you have to operate while you're driving without taking your eyes from the road or your hands from the wheel. Everything is located where it's easy to see, reach and operate, but also where it's logical to operate. So it becomes second nature. Drinks, always important in the workplace. We need to keep hydrated. So there are drink holders in the console, the doors, the ends of the dash. There's even a compartment above the glove compartment that's connected to the air conditioning unit to help keep drinks cool. Probably another really important one for the tradie is the 220 volt socket in the console. So you can plug your charger in, have your batteries all fully charged so that when one runs flat, back into the charger, new one on the tool and back onto the job straight away. At the end of the day, it's a combination of all of the features that we've talked about and a whole lot more that make Hilux the ideal workhorse.
So what technology in the new Hilux are you particularly excited about?
It would have to be IMT. It's a little piece of Hilux magic. So when making the car unbreakable, we wanted to ensure that the vehicle remained tough, but we also wanted to provide a comfortable driving experience. IMT is so cool. What it does is it matches the engine speed to the transmission speed all by itself. And this works for both the upshifts and the downshifts. Typically, you see this kind of technology from high-end sports cars, but we've taken it, refined it, and applied it to the Hilux. By matching the engine speed and the transmission speed, we've been able to provide smoother shifts for customers on both the downshifts and the upshifts. As well as applying supplemental throttle control, the vehicle can prevent stalling. And this is really useful if you're doing highly technical off-road driving or towing.
So what you're saying, for someone that doesn't usually drive a manual too much, to go into this with the IMT makes it a lot easier to drive?
The IMT makes the manual transmission much easier to drive. It actually makes the most novice manual transmission driver seem like a pro, without any extra thought or additional pedal work.
So are there any other particular features or technology in the new Hilux that you're excited about also?
Features such as downhill assist control, hill start assist, A-track, and the trailer stability control all work behind the scenes to provide a really comfortable and engaging driving experience. The way that the vehicle makes changes to the engine mapping and throttle control as soon as you engage low-floor drive is just another example of the subtle changes and attention to detail that makes Hilux a Hilux. There's a lot of new technology that we've added to the inside of the vehicle as well. For example, we've added a large touchscreen standard on all variants, as well as a reverse camera on all pickups. And we would have actually put it onto the cab chassis models as well, but there's just the issue that there's no physical location to fit it.
Fit a tray.
Yeah, you've got to fit a tray before you can attach the camera. But it's just an example of how we've taken the Hilux further in terms of safety and convenience.
So world-first technology, you can't argue with that.
Toyota's always looking for the best technologies for our customers, and IMT is just the beginning.
So Peter, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market about the engine size in the new vehicle. Can you explain us through the engineering philosophy behind the new engine?
The philosophy is quite simple, Glenn. Some of our competitors have stuck with the big capacity old style engine. Others have gone with ultra small capacity, twin turbo, super high tech. This is one of the most advanced engines in the class. And the chief engineer built it because he was looking for the best balance of both worlds. The grunt of the big old style engine and the efficiency and low running cost of the compact high tech engines. And that's what it delivers. Although a very competitive engine, power and torque figures were not the priorities for development. We know Hilux drivers face all kinds of conditions, which is why our engineers conduct extensive testing in real-world conditions with heavy loads. We base our reputation on QDR, which is quality, durability and reliability, and that's something that's very important to us. It's our heritage. Any changes we make, we want to ensure it lives up to that heritage.
Tell me more about the drivability.
There's no better way to learn how well Hilux drives than to actually do it. Take it for a run. Because I could talk about power, torque and all kinds of stuff, but the reality is Hilux is the sum of all its parts. And the only way you'll understand how that works is to drive it. And not just drive it empty, drive it loaded. Drive it down a bush track, drive it on the freeway, drive it everywhere. And nobody will come back and say, this isn't the truck I want.
So how does the power and the torque of the new engine compare to its competitors?
It's increased over the old model, 130 kilowatts, 450 newton metres of torque at very low RPM, puts it in the ballpark with Ford's bigger capacity 5-cylinder diesel. In fact, the 2.8 litre turbo diesel engine with manual transmission has the maximum torque available from 1400 RPM, compared with 1750 revs on the 5-cylinder turbo diesel Ranger. And it lasts until 2600 RPM, which is 100 revs longer than the Ranger engine. So with maximum torque coming on earlier and lasting longer, that's the secret to its extreme pulling power.
So how does the weight of the vehicle impact performance?
Weight's a critical figure in any calculation to deal with performance. The 4x4 Auto Hilux SR5 weighs 2,075 kilograms. It's around 200 kilograms lighter compared to Ford's Wildtrak. And that's a fair whack of weight. And it doesn't take an engineer to know how that helps handling, fuel consumption, component durability, agility, and off-road capability. This engine is absolutely stunning. It does everything we ever wanted a Hilux diesel to do, and does it better than any other Hilux diesel before.
So Sarge, the ute segment certainly has changed in the past few years. Like, people are definitely looking for more comfort in both on and off-road. So what changes have been made in the Hilux to give it more of a SUV-like drive?
Well, Glenn, the ute segment's really taken off. We've got more and more people driving utes and Hiluxes, and they're coming from different walks of life. So there's a very wide range of expectations. Some people are expecting the vehicle to perform as a heavy-duty workhorse, and some people are using it as the family vehicle around town. We didn't want to just meet customer expectations and provide a vehicle that doesn't have any compromise in both regards. We wanted to exceed customer expectations. And 2 years into the making of the new platform, we actually scrapped the program and went back to the start and redeveloped the chassis, and that allowed us to increase the thickness of the chassis rails, which improved the handling performance and reduces the vibrations, especially on long-distance country roads. We retuned the suspension with a balance between a no-load and a full-load condition. We also increased the stiffness of the front anti-roll bar to provide flatter cornering, and we introduced longer rear leaf springs, which improved the stability of the vehicle as well as the comfort. And lastly, we made a really large focus on improving the quietness of the cabin, and we actually achieved this by introducing a dash silencer that was 50% larger than the outgoing models. And that's really appreciated by customers that do long trips, because they can converse with other passengers much easier, especially those that are sitting in the back.
So historically the Hilux was probably known more so as a work ute, but now there's been a change to introduce more comfort. So someone looking at an SUV, say, can now consider the Hilux?
Absolutely right. The new Hilux is a real jack of all trades. It can perform the heavy-duty workhorse duties during the week, and it's the perfect family getaway vehicle for the weekend.
So I've also noticed that the Ranger, say, has electric power steering, yet hydraulic's been chosen for the Hilux. So why was hydraulic chosen for the Hilux?
A lot of our customers use the vehicle for heavy-duty off-road performance, and hydraulic power steering is still the most robust type of technology for their kind of application. Having said that, though, that the Hilux power steering has been tuned to provide comfortable and easy manoeuvrability at low speeds, but also direct, natural feedback at high speeds.
So what you're saying, the Hilux now is being broadened to meet the SUV style of comforts inside, but the benefits of a ute?
Absolutely right. So the Hilux has now been able to maintain its status as a heavy-duty off-road workhorse vehicle, but it's also the perfect SUV-like comfortable drive for the everyday family.
Let's talk about the model lineup. So it's now extended to include the Hyryder. What's a Hyryder?
Hyryder is a great example of what Toyota is all about. We try and have a product to meet everybody's automotive needs. And there's around 30 models in the current Hilux line which satisfy most people, but not everybody. There are a few guys and girls out there that need a vehicle with a little extra ground clearance, or they simply like the look of the four-wheel drive models but don't want the expense or have the need for the extra drivetrain components. So Hyryder fills that gap. It has the ground clearance and the undercarriage toughness and structure of a four-wheel drive, but without the extra cost of all the four-wheel drive drivetrain components. It's an addition to the lineup that gives a little more versatility for a small group of customers that have a need beyond what a regular Hilux model can deliver.
What type of customers should consider a Hi-Rider?
The reality is probably the tradie that works on a job site in the urban area. There could be a lot of rural requirements where four-wheel drive's not really necessary, but the terrain's a little rugged and a bit rocky perhaps. People with really heavy towing requirements, again, get all the heavy-duty componentry in the Hi-Rider so they can tow their boat. But they don't need four-wheel drive because they're on a concrete boat ramp, easy to get the boat in and out of the water. So there's a Hilux for everybody, basically.